I've decided to go out for a quick walk and vlog on this issue with Zelensky. As y'all may have heard, that he's actually having this feud with the new administration, especially with Mr. Trump. For some reason, he feels that Mr. Trump isn't getting or isn't providing the information that is in line with Zelensky's narrative. So that kind of made me want to reflect on what this over a feud is really about. It's not about ending the war or de-escalating the war. About Zelensky's opinion of how Trump should operate. And last time I checked, the US is sending money and weapons to Ukraine, to Zelensky. I don't think Zelensky's ever sent money to the US or any form of weapons to protect our citizens. Okay, folks, so on top of that, why hasn't he done anything to de-escalate and stop the war in the last 3 years? Makes me wonder sometimes. You know, you would think that after those hundreds of billions worth of US tax aid sent to Ukraine, he would be a little bit more, you know, respectful, okay, to the current administration, to the current president, and to the American people. Trying to figure out, you know, why exactly he's, you know, trying to bang heads with the person that could basically end the aid to Ukraine altogether. Okay. You know, he hasn't really showed any form of confidence in Mr. Trump's ability to support the Ukrainian population, even though we are trying to de-escalate and stop this ongoing war in his country. Okay, folks. So I thought I'd, you know, put this out there just because this is an ongoing issue between Mr. Trump and Zelensky. And it's getting to the point that it's really becoming a nuisance in many ways because, you know, Zelensky's the type of person that wants pretty much everything that he wants everything to go his way. And when things don't go his way, he starts acting it out. He's, you know, like this little spoiled brat that acts out if he doesn't get what he wants. So there is no reason for the US to want to send support to this country. There is nothing in our Constitution that compels us and, you know, mitigate some sort of support and allocate resources to Ukraine. We're doing it because we believe as Americans that we should support those who are in need. But hundreds of billions later, they're still asking for more. And just the last couple of weeks, Zelensky himself said he has no idea what happened to the money that was sent to his country. So that's the kind of situation that nobody that's supporting anyone would want to hear. Okay? We don't know what happened to your money. Imagine a typical regular American busting their behind on a 9-to-5 job, okay, day in and day out, paying their taxes, barely making ends meet. Their money is sent over to Ukraine to support a war that could have been prevented. You know, a war that could have been, you know, de-escalated, could have been stopped a long time ago. Imagine if you were a regular American making just enough money to live paycheck after paycheck. Hello there, all these people that are listening in. Thanks for your comments. Keep them coming. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, folks? So what I was saying is that you would think that Zelensky would be more respectful and more diplomatic towards the new administration, you know, towards the current president, because this president actually wants to end the war. He wants to de-escalate everything that's destroying Ukraine. Ukraine is in a bad situation right now. Many Ukrainians have been displaced, and they had to, you know, figure out a way to survive on their own because of this war. And the president of the United States basically wants to end all the suffering, wants to end all these human strife and hardship, and bring the region, not just Ukraine, back to normalcy. Okay, folks? He wants to stop the war. He wants to get this all taken care of and help rebuild Ukraine. But this Zelensky guy, are there any questions? Hello from Belarus. Okay, I'm getting people from, I see a Ukrainian flag and I see a Belarusian flag and a Russian flag. I think I see it there too. So everybody that seems to be following me are from the region. So thank you so much. I don't know if you agree with me or disagree with me. Let me know in your comments at the bottom. But I just want to say this, okay, folks? 3 years into an ongoing war, and so many lives lost from both sides, Ukraine and Russia. And for what reason? Over a political policy, over a political disagreement? Is it really worth that many lives and sacrifices? Okay, so that, you know, these political agenda could manifest in a way that is counterproductive and is harmful to the society of both countries. And now Zelensky, who you would think he would be more appreciative of all the supports that we've given his country to all these years, you would think that he'd be more appreciative. But no, that's not the case. He's headbanging with the president who's trying to stop the war, trying to bring the region back to normalcy. So, who would want for this war to keep on going? No one's really benefiting You know, many lives have been disrupted. Is there any questions? I don't see any questions there, but I see everybody saying hi from, you know, your country, and thank you so much for letting me know that you're following me. But in all reality, folks, no one's benefiting from this war. And for Zelensky to, you know, mudsling all these stuff against the new administration is unheard of. You know, it's so counterproductive, but he's still doing it. Okay. On top of that, you know, the European Union seems to be supporting his narrative, which will basically just inflame the whole situation instead of de-escalate this headbanging issue between Trump and Zelensky. The European Union is egging him on. They're telling him to keep the fight and to, you know, voice his opinion, even though it's disjointed and counterproductive. But, you know, they're just kind of making things worse. I think I'm gonna go cut through the park again. I like this park. I actually used to go here when I was a little kid. So, anyway, yeah, I just thought I'd bring this subject up to you, with you guys, and learn a little bit about what you think. As I mentioned, you know, Zelensky's narrative is so counterproductive, folks. You know, it's like he's trying to basically disenfranchise the American public. He's trying to, you know, get people to not want to support the rebuilding and reinvestment into the Ukrainian, you know, market and economy and into the region. You know, I was just talking to people from that region this morning, and they're all tired and sick and fed up with this war because it's not only destabilizing the region, it's affecting their businesses, it's affecting their overall lifestyle. And for what reason? Okay, it's just basically, you know, what, just over a political agenda, just, you know, a narrative that's so inflammatory that led to this conflict to begin with, to this war. Come on, folks, we gotta start to smarten up a bit. We need to make sure that, you know, people around the world actually know what's going on. They're not just, you know, putting out disjointed opinions out there. You know, this war has been ongoing for 3 years now, but it actually started a long time ago. And, you know, it should have been taken care of, it should have been done with, and no one should be suffering right now. But unfortunately, that's not the case. All because of a political narrative. All right, folks, I'm gonna walk towards the hill where there's people sledding, so y'all can see, you know, how much fun it is to play in the snow. But feel free to let me know if you have any questions, comments, suggestions. I appreciate you listening in. So, my name is Al Mino. I'm the concept author of Faceconomics, the utilization of the social media platform in economic development worldwide. Thank you for joining me once again. Also, I wanted to bring to your attention this petition that we started. Several of my friends that have been watching and paying attention to the case of Mr. Gonzalo Lira all the way back in 2022. As you all may have heard, Mr. Gonzalo Lira is this, he was this YouTuber who was arrested in Ukraine and basically was kept in Ukraine up until he ended up perishing and dying in captivity. So we started a petition in his honor and requested for the White House to conduct a formal investigation. Okay, you can find the petition at our website change.org. Demand Trump administration to investigate the arrest and the death of Gonzalo Lira in Ukraine. So that's the title of the petition. So look us up. If you feel compelled to sign, please do sign it. We're trying to help out the Lira family, especially the two infant children who ended up losing their father, okay, who tried to de-escalate the war, okay, between Russia and Ukraine. That's all he tried to do, is to help de-escalate the war, save lives, preserve peace, democracy, and freedom of speech. But yet he was put in prison for exercising his freedom of speech. So Mr. Killer, okay, interesting name. Russia gonna get more land. Well, actually, you know what? I don't know if this is a land grabbing issue. Russia doesn't need more land, really. What they need is security and, guarantee that no one would infringe on that security. But I appreciate your comment. Possibly they might get additional land, but I don't think that was the ultimate reason for this, war that they decided to engage in. They didn't provoke it. They didn't start the war. Obviously, let me show you what it looks like. There's some snowmobile riders over there, and there's people up on the hill. I don't know if you can see it, some children enjoying the snow. But what I was saying is that back in 2021, the Ukrainians were actually engaging the territory referendum states that decided to side with the Russian Federation by voting in a referendum. So they wanted a legal state and territory associated to the Russian Federation, and so they engaged in a referendum. That was in 2014. In 2021, the Ukrainians, under the instruction of the government, decided to attack these territories that sided with the Russians. These are everything that I'm telling you are public information. They're in the public domain, so I'm not telling you anything new. It's just a majority of the things that are now surfacing is becoming available and widely available after the Trump administration took office. So nothing that I'm telling you is new information, okay? I'm just piecing them all together to help you guys understand the conflict if you're not closely paying attention to what's going on in the region. I happen to work in the region, live in the region, and went to the region under the U.S. Embassy mission, okay? The U.S. Embassy mission that was promoting U.S. diplomatic relationship building in Eastern Europe. So everything that I'm talking to you guys about today are not, They're not information that you can't find online. These are all readily available, widely spread information. I'm just helping you connect the dots here. So anyway, Zelensky's people were basically attacking these territories, the territories that voted to become a member of the Russian Federation, okay? Luhansk, Donbass, Crimea, and Zaporozhye. Okay, folks? And that's what prompted the Russians to basically give the Ukrainians an ultimatum in 2021, telling them to quit or the Russians will attack. And so back in 2021, the Russians started fortifying the borders, but they didn't move in up until later, basically to convince Ukraine that they were serious about it. Okay, folks, they basically tried to influence the Zelensky government to lay off, which they didn't take seriously. So there's some guys here playing football. I'm gonna try to walk away from them, but anyway, so that's what they did. Okay, that's what they were doing until, you know, the Russians had enough and they said, okay, we're moving in. But it was several months before they actually marched into the territory. So that's what happened, right, folks? A lot of what's being said in the news now, especially that we have a new administration, is starting to surface regarding, you know, the year 2021, before the war. So what the Western news are saying currently only started in February 2022. Okay, so they're basically not providing accurate, full, and concise information regarding the war, because they don't want to have everybody know that this war was precipitated and was deliberately provoked by the Ukrainians. Right, folks? So that's the whole honest truth regarding this war. But you didn't hear this in the news. Okay? And until to this day, no one would cover it. And so it's not the Russians that pulled the trigger, it was the Ukrainians. Okay, because Mr. Zelensky, all right, told the Ukrainian population when he was campaigning that he was going to recapture these territories that sided with the Russians in the referendum. So there was a legal election that took place in a form of a referendum that basically turned those states a Russian territory. Okay, folks? So it was a premeditated engagement for Zelensky, because he made that promise to his people. I'm going to sit down here for a little bit since I'm a little tired and my boots are wet. So it was all planned that he was going to engage the Russians. All right, folks. Yeah, so that's the truth. They've wanted to recapture those territories. I'm going to try to answer some of your questions now that I'm sitting down. So America will do what we want. Okay, well, actually, America will do what is right. And not just for America, but for the world and for Ukraine and for Russia and for continental Europe. That's been, you know, the overall prerogative of this Trump administration, is to do what's right for everyone, not just for America. But yes, we do look out for our interests, but we also look out for other people's interests. Do I support Belarus? I don't have any reason why not or why to. So if you ask me, do I support development in Belarus? More people learning about Belarus? Yes. Having better diplomatic ties with Belarus? Absolutely. You know, I'm not the type of person that would want to isolate countries, especially not in this age and time. It's very counterproductive to isolate countries, folks, because we don't live in the same time and conditions anymore. Every country today in this planet are not interested in going into a conflict. They're interested in building their economy. They're increasing capacity in their countries. They want to, you know, have a better future for their people. They're not interested in engaging in any war. And that also goes for the Russians. They weren't interested in going into the war with Ukraine. They were provoked to go into the war with Ukraine because they wanted to expand NATO, and they attack the referendum states that sided with the Russians. The Ukrainians did, and it was all provoked. But the Western media did not want to cover the provocation because that would lose credibility in the narrative that the Russians basically invaded their country. Okay, that's why they didn't cover what took place back in 2021 when the Russians told, you know, Zelensky's people to stop attacking those territories that sided with, you know, the Russians. Okay, folks, that's just the reality of things. Unfortunately, till to this day, the truth is being silenced. Okay, many people that knows the region, have had experience in Eastern Europe, have lived and worked in Eastern Europe, are not being covered by Western media because they don't want to expose the corruption. They don't want to expose the evil, nefarious agenda of the Zelensky regime. Okay, I mean, all this is now surfacing, so it's not like I'm telling you anything new. But I just thought I'd share that with you. All right, folks. So that's the reality of things. Okay, we're not, interested, especially not this administration, in further supporting and escalating this conflict, because it could have been stopped a long time ago. It could have been just escalated and stopped at the onset of the war. You know, the Russians basically even requested to meet with Zelensky's people, but Zelensky's people and, you know, government officials and representatives from the West instructed Zelensky not to participate in a dialogue, which I don't know why he even listened to them, but he, you know, was following instructions and he couldn't make up his mind, so he ripped up the, you know, agreement that, you know, he and Vladimir Putin was supposed to agree on, which is a ceasefire and bring everybody back into normalcy in the region. That was in 2022. So imagine 3 years later, thousands of lives snuffed out, buildings destroyed, monuments destroyed, historical sites bombed down, everything's destroyed. For what? A political ideal, okay, that could have been easily, mitigated and restructured so that the conflict won't escalate to the level that it is today. That's, it's so unfortunate sometimes that there are people in this world, especially people in power, that they get so overly drunk with power that it basically screw up their ability to think logically and coherently, and not be able to deploy wisdom. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys understand that the war in itself could have been prevented. It shouldn't have even happened. But unfortunately, because people are not interested in promoting peace and escalating, the war. During the Biden-Harris administration, so many people had perished in a senseless war situation. Nobody in today's world should be engaged in any form of a war. Okay, folks, everything and anything can be talked about, fix, and improve. You can compromise, you can negotiate. You don't have to engage in a war situation, all right, folks? So anyway, I just thought I'd reflect a little bit on this headbanging issue between Mr. Trump and Mr. Zelensky, because to me, I think Mr. Zelensky's definitely out of line. He should be more, diplomatic and then, respectful to the new administration, given that we simply do not have to help them. The American people, taxpayers, need help ourselves. There is no mandate that forces the U.S. to send hundreds of billions worth of tax dollars to Ukraine or even provide weaponry to them. We do it because we feel that might be something that they might need, but with the current situation, especially in Ukraine, as new information is surfacing regarding things that was silenced during the Biden-Harris administration, new information pertaining to the war and what precipitated the war now surfacing. Well, seems like they've pretty much brought it upon themselves to be attacked. So why should we continue to, help a country that provoke another country to be attacked? So that's just the, reality of things today. In the year 2025, I wish we knew about all this stuff back in 2021. And even the year 2021 isn't covered. Hey Bogdan, good to see you. Chefach, Akolan Maramures. Okay, so anyway, thanks guys for joining me on my quick video blog here at the park. We just had a snowstorm yesterday. So good to see you, Bogdan. Say hello to everyone for me. Anyway, so that's been the issue, right, with Ukraine, is that they basically provoked the attack, and now they're fighting with the new Trump administration to keep them in the fight, which nobody wants to keep Ukraine in the fight because they're losing one, and they've spent quite a bit of money, and they're just destroying their country because they're not ready to fight. Okay, but now that Zelensky's disrespecting Trump and his advisors that are providing information to Mr. Trump on the status of the war, and you have Zelensky dogging him out, that's not gonna fly. That's not something that people would want to, engage in. They don't want to hear that kind of stuff, especially American taxpayers that are only making minimum wage, and their taxes are being sent overseas, and there's no guarantee there if they're even going to get that money back, or if it's even worth supporting that kind of war effort. So, all right, Bogdan, take care. Thank you so much for saying hi. Anyway, yeah, that's the situation right now. Okay, folks. And as I mentioned, we started this petition to help investigate the arrest and the death of Mr. Gonzalo Lira, a Hispanic American YouTuber who tried to de-escalate the war at the onset of the war, who was basically exercising his freedom of speech. And he was arrested. I don't know if they even charge him formally. He tried to leave Ukraine, but he was picked up at the border near Hungary and basically, kept in jail up until he got sick and ended up dying in captivity. Over what? Over talking about the same stuff that was already a bit widely available in the news to begin with. He was there by himself. And imagine if you're in a foreign country, okay, and you're not able to operate in that country on your own, and lo and behold, all of a sudden you're being oppressed and put in jail, extorted, tortured, okay, and left for dead in a prison. And it's like a perfect storm for Gonzalo Lira. And on top of that, the Biden-Harris administration elected not to help him. The State Department elected not to help an American citizen. Hi, Nancy. How are you, Nancy? So, if your citizen is in distress in a foreign country, it's the job of your president's office and your State Department to help that citizen. Okay, especially if your citizen gets on their YouTube channel and tells you, hey, guess what, I'm being extorted, people are torturing me, I'm not being treated fairly in the country, my human rights violated. You would think that your government would come in and help you. And especially after thousands of people saw your plea for help. But that wasn't the case for Gonzalo Lira. Okay, he was in distress. On most of the videos that he made, he said, my life's in danger, I need help. And still nobody showed up to help him. Okay, folks. So, well, I appreciate your vote of confidence, Nancy. I don't know if I'll be famous or anything. I'm just trying to speak my mind right now, but I appreciate your vote of confidence anyway. Thanks for saying hi. Yeah, so I just thought I'd talk about these issues, folks, because it's very problematic, when people are trying to preserve peace, support democracy, exercise their freedom of speech, and de-escalate the war conflict, and then all of a sudden they get treated the way Gonzalo was treated. Matter of fact, Gonzalo Lira's father went on various YouTube channels and even international news organization talking about you know, his son, he was trying to ask people for help, and nobody came up and tried to help him, unfortunately, you know. And his son died in captivity in Ukraine, okay, and they requested for an autopsy to be done. So to make things worse, all right, your son's already been killed off, he's dead, and then you ask for an autopsy to be done, and then they cremated his son, and against their will, against the family's will. Imagine that kind of treatment, folks. And Ukraine says they're a democratic society. They have the rule of law and they support freedom of speech. But I mean, who would treat somebody like that? Okay, folks. Gonzalo Lira Sr. asked for his son's body to have an autopsy to be done so they know what caused his death. Okay, folks. And that wasn't even honored. And then it took weeks before they even got the cremated ashes of Gonzalo Lira sent via the Chilean embassy, not the U.S. embassy, the Chilean embassy, which they ended up receiving his ashes in Santiago, Chile. So, I mean, human rights, freedom of speech, and the democratic process are staples and pillars of various societies around the world, especially if they're free-loving societies. If they really are a democracy, then they would preserve and protect freedom of speech, the rule of law. Okay, folks? But that wasn't the case. Gonzalo Lira did not get the opportunity, okay, to be treated just like any other human being is supposed to be treated. All right, folks. So that's why we started our petition. All right, go to change.org, look up, demand Trump administration to investigate the arrest and death of Gonzalo Lira in Ukraine. Just type this all up. I'm gonna try to see if I can put down the link on this live stream, because I don't know if, you know, YouTube would let me do that, but if I'm able to do it, I'll share the petition with you on this live stream in the description section. Anyway, folks, yeah, so we started this petition, and we actually ended up getting several hundreds signature in a few days, because this overall case is being silenced. It was silenced during the Biden-Harris administration, and the Western media have been silencing it for several years now, okay? And because they don't want to be blamed for the death of an American citizen in Ukraine. So, who happens to be trying to de-escalate the war conflict between Russia and Ukraine. All right, I think I've answered everyone's text already. So what I was gonna try to talk last about on this video blog, I apologize, I'm kind of huffing and puffing because I'm having to walk through this kind of snow path. So yeah, we definitely got a lot of snow last night. But anyway, what I was going to talk about last is the overall meeting between Trump and Vladimir Putin in Russia that's supposed to take place soon. So I'm guessing that meeting would yield a fast and very calculated response from the European Union and Ukraine, because they weren't invited. And I wouldn't be surprised if some stupid policymaker in Europe or in Ukraine decides to make things worse. And, you know, that would basically derail the whole effort of stopping the war. And so I want to make sure that whoever it is that watches these kinds of news and pay attention closely to the evolution of these kinds of news events, to keep us posted, to help us be vigilant. I'm doing my best to pay attention as much as I can, but if there's anything that I miss, please point them out. But what I'm sensing is that somebody from Europe and Ukraine will try to derail the overall progress of the upcoming meeting. Matter of fact, some people are already saying that it's going to be Zelensky that will try to disrupt the whole process after the meeting. So I don't know if that's the truth or if just an opinion, but like I said, if you come across any information that's relevant to the topic, let me know. So that's basically something that I try to pay close attention to, this upcoming meeting between Trump and Vladimir Putin, because in effect that would reset the relationship between the US and Russia. As many of you have probably been, if you're following the news, in the last couple of years, when Secretary of State Hillary Clinton tried to reset the relationship between the US and Russia, that didn't go anywhere because the Russians were basically pigeonholed to agree with various, conditions that they weren't ready to agree to. So this time around, I think the overall relationship between Vladimir Putin and President Trump will become much more stronger and more transparent, because they're actually working on a specific agenda. And so on top of that, they want to try to get things taken care of as soon as possible. So this might help build the relationship between the US and Russia much quicker and much more stable compared to previous generations of Americans and previous administrations of decision makers in the US. Hopefully this will be, the fig leaf for peace between America and Russia that will be an enduring relationship. And also other countries, Belarus, I saw Belarus here, Belarus is also one of those countries that I'm hoping would have a better forward-leaning relationship with the US. And maybe, not everything's lost with this conflict. Maybe that's the reason why it took place, why this kind of, situation happened, is to maybe bring those countries that weren't as friendly towards the US, or the US as friendly towards them in the past, together now. Maybe there's something good that's going to come out of this war, in spite of all the lives lost. Perhaps it's going to be the resetting of Eastern European countries' relationship with the US, and trust will be developed, and better dialogue and transparency will basically flourish and evolve because of the war conflict. So I just saw somebody else come in. Okay, well, yeah, I just thought I kind of, reflect on the good out of these, war conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Maybe, these countries that were not so friendly towards the US will now want to embrace partnership with America, and vice versa. America, incorporating a better policy and strategy in relationship building and diplomacy with these potential new countries, becoming our new friends in the new world marketplace. With this said, folks, my name is Al Mina, concept author of Face Economics, the utilization of the social media platform in economic development. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to your comments, your thoughts, suggestions, And hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. I'm cutting off for now. Looking forward to our next conversation. Take care.